back to the question. So I've been asked a question about dot constants and dot labels. So this is my understanding of dot const and dot label in Kick Assembler. So we'll start with label. A label can be anything from a label in code or... Oh, have I got any dot labels? That's a good point, John. Have I got any dot labels? Yes, I must have. Game constants. Let's have a look. Game constants. Here we go. Right. So dot labels and dot constants. So a dot label is you attaching a value to a label. So my color equals green, yeah? Or sprite 0x equals D1000, yeah? And dot constants cannot be changed. So once you've assigned them, that's it. They cannot be changed. As labels can be changed. You can use a label in one bit of code, change it in a bit of code, and it will allow you to do it. Labels can be scoped, so you can have a label within a namespace, or you can have a, like here, we've got namespace maze. This is a label for a routine. Yeah, it's a label for a routine. But you cannot do JSR build maze labels, changeable variables. Yeah, you can change a label. It can be you can specify what they are in different parts of the code. Yeah. But a constant you can't change. Yeah. Once you've defined it, that's it. It cannot be changed. That is what the value is for that. So if I wanted to change this CHR maze space from 160 to say 161, I couldn't use a const. I'd have to use a label. Yeah. Labels can be scoped within code blocks. They could be scoped within namespaces. No, it's dot label. A label. If you like here, I've defined this label maze pointer in a file, right? And then I import that file in other files. That means that then that label is global. That label is global because I've defined it at the root level. This label here, I can only access it if I do maze dot build maze evaluation direction. Yeah. So that would be classed as a local label inside the namespace maze. And then you've also got the scope of a variable. Now we do reassign, hang on, I'm trying to think where we do that. We are in one of these routines, we reassign, we scope labels inside it. I'm just trying to find it. Is it in here or is it in another one? I wonder if it's in the 3D one. Right, so for example, all these labels here can only be accessible inside this namespace. If def. I'm not sure, mate. So you've got 3 levels of scoping for labels. You've got global. Then you've got namespace scoping. So a label is only available within that namespace. And then you've got function scope, where the label is only available within that function. So if you put curly brackets on a function, so we've got curly brackets on a namespace, so if we want to get to that, we have to say 3D display dot char left top wall. Yeah. If we want to get to no, not that's a bad idea here. We'd have to do draw slice 1 dot row looper. Yeah. Now, constants don't have scoping. They are global. But there is a caveat to the globalization of constants. Because if you look at my imports, my constants are always first. Because with a label, the assembler scans through, think 2 or 3 times. And on each scan will define a label if it sees it. If you try referencing a constant before you've defined it, you will get an error message. So you have to define all your constants right up the top first. Always first. So if you look in my Maze 101, my constants and my game's constants are always first. Always. Because if you don't put them first for a constant, a dot const, it will not assemble. It will error. It'll probably say undefined constant or something like that. Yeah? I mean, I can try and demonstrate it. Yeah? So let me try and demonstrate it. So if I say load, and we'll load in a test constant. Yeah? Right? And then I do here dot const equals test constant equals 10. Right? Okay? If I try to assemble that, so if I press F6, we get an error. Reference to a not yet defined symbol. That's because I defined it afterwards. If I move that to in front, do the same thing again, F6, it works. Right, this is a completely different error. Forget, right? It's assembled it. Let me rem out that. Let me rem out that just to prove it. Just to prove it. Right, so F6. There you are, assembles. Put the constant after an F6, it errors. Now, if I change that from being a constant to a label, yeah, press F6, it works. It doesn't matter if the label is defined after you're using it, but a constant forces you to define it before you use it. Right? So remember, constant is global. It's fixed. Once you've defined it, you can't change it. I mean, we can try and see if we can try and demonstrate that. So cut that, put that there, and then we'll do it again, and we'll say it's 20. Yeah. So F6. It's already defined, can't do it. Right? That is my understanding between labels and constants in Kick Assembler. So, if you're using constants, always import them first. Always, 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 always. And it's also important to put that at the top of your constants file. Import it once. Doesn't matter how many times you reference it. Import it once. So it'll only import on the first. If you don't have that, right? So if I do this and rem it out and then try. So if I get rid of all this and then try and assemble it. Oh, look. I've already defined all these constants. Oh, it's complaining already because I've got import IO constants in all my files because I want to use them in the editor. So you have to put import once in your file. If you don't do it, you end up with errors. Alright? So if I go back to Maze 101, F6, done. So, does that explain the difference between dot label versus label? Dot label and label are exactly the same animal. Exactly the same animal. So, if you've got a dot label inside a scope, then it's just as you reference it just the same as if you wanted to reference a function inside your scope. It's just the same. They are classed the same. Yeah, I understand that's why you put dot label. Yeah. So dot label and label are exactly the same thing. The reason why there's a dot label is so you can create a label that references memory that's not within your assembly space. Yeah, like zero page. We're not assembling code in zero page, and that's why we use dot label to reference that location. Yeah, as this label, which is a label, is reference a memory location inside my assembly code. Exactly the same mechanism. It's still a label. The only difference is the way we declare those labels. Yeah. So, and a label and a constant can be anything. It can be a number, it can be a binary number, it can be text, it can be floating point, whatever. Yeah, there's no restrictions on the... it can be a data type that the kick assembler can understand. So does that help? Does that help your understanding between the two? You're very welcome. Right, now we've got the basics out of the way. I might just split that off and make a little teeny tiny tutorial, because that's 35 minutes, so that's 15 minutes. I'd like to thank all the patrons that are contributing to my channel. Without you guys, I wouldn't be able to do what I'm doing right now. Thank you very much.